Well, now tell me about your DC. How did that begun? And how do you? I mean, I read at length here and there on the internet some of the things that you reminisce about, but how do you get to enter Justice League, specifically the Manhunter storyline? You know, had such repercussions in the continuity later on. I'm curious how that developed, and if there was what type of connection you had with the Manhunter from the Golden Age, right? I believe Paul Kirk, and he had the same custom. If you don't mind sharing about that story.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Um, well, when I started working in comics, when I first got to New York, I would take any job I could get. So I did work for DC. I did work for Warren on Vampirella. But primarily, I was interested in working for Marvel, and Marvel quickly sort of gave me all the work I could handle. So I didn't work anywhere else for a number of years. And then as things happened, office politics got involved, and I left Marvel, and figured I would take a break from comics altogether. My wife had traveled in Europe when I never had, so I said, let's go to Europe. And at that point, Jeanette Kahn, who's the publisher at DC, called me up and asked if I would come over and do stuff for them. And I said, well, I'm going to Europe, and it's all scheduled for like a year from now. So I could do stuff, but it would only be for a limited amount. And she said, that's fine. And what she wanted was for me to come over and, as she said specifically, do what I did for the Justice League, what I had done for the Avengers, which was to give them personalities and and just a looser, because the Justice League at that point was basically just a bunch of statues, just icons in costumes. So I thought that would be fun, but I also wanted to do Batman specifically because I loved Batman. So I did that. But on the Justice League side, I said to her, if I'm going to have to sort of reinvent all these characters and tell a story, I need more space. So I want to do a double-sized issue every month, which she agreed to. And fortunately, Justice League was being drawn by Dick Dillon, who was old school, and it was just like, sure, I'll just draw twice as many pages instead of doing whatever second book he might have done. So that all worked out. And the first story then did involve the Manhunters. Kirby had done a one-shot Manhunter. I don't know if you know.
I haven't read it, but I'm familiar with it. Yes.
Yeah, so he had established that, and also Walt Simonson and Archie Goodwin had done a Manhunter run in the back of Detective Comics, I think. So Manhunters had existed in the current DC chronology. But they were tied in, their backstory was tied into the Green Lanterns, and I thought that was a good jumping off point for sort of opening up Green Lantern, but also the rest of them. So that's all I got. I think. What else did you need to know about that?
I mean, no, thank you. I guess, the question was that a lot of people were, of course, Millennium came after,
right.
And that's after Crisis. And for me particularly, I have one of yours here. I think I'll probably put it on. But for me particularly, it was interesting what with the character Mark Shaw and his relationship with the Manhunters, and how that really I was always interested in comparing continuities between the Golden Age, Earth 2 and Earth 1, which I'm covering in the channel a lot, specifically stories and maybe unraveling questions or lingering issues that weren't really explained. So just thought to ask they were dressed the same way, but there were no Guardians of the Universe on Earth too. So I was always curious to see if there was any type of untold story or collection, or even some sort of idea that was lingering. But that's okay. If we can jump now to the question that I've been waiting 35 years plus to ask you about your run in Green Lantern.
Mm.
I started reading the series right about the time when you start writing those stories, right? I think I missed the first two or three. So that's the Green Lantern that I came to really love before I delve into back issues, and specifically the Crisis stories. And I wanted to ask you, some continuity things. Maybe you can clarify if you remember. So the way that he leads to that battle to the in the into the Moon of Court, right?
Mhm, mhm.
That is concurrent with Crisis number 12. Is
Right.
that correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So when that explosion happens, that's the moment when Superman of Earth 2 are killing the Anti-Monitor, and pretty much the universe unraveling. Is that correct?
Pretty much, yes. I
Tell
was,
me, tell me about this.
well, I mean, what I just talked about with the Manhunters, that was in the 70s. So I went away, I came back and did Green Lantern in the 80s. And when I came back, they were just had just started somewhere in there, the whole crisis. They were going to do a year leading up to this whole crisis thing. And they had, we were supposed to show that the sky turned red, as I recall. And I think the girl, was that the Harbinger?
Yeah, Harbinger. Yes.
Yeah, Harbinger, she was supposed to show up somewhere. So it was pretty loose. But I mean, but the idea was from DC was every series needs to reference the fact that the crisis is going on. You don't have to like rewrite all your stories, but the sky has to turn red and things like that
Right.
that you can connect to. And when I took over that Green Lantern, John Stewart was the Green Lantern. Hal Jordan had said he was never going to come back, but everybody knew that Hal Jordan would come back. And everybody assumed that when he came back, John Stewart would have to leave. And once I started writing the book, I thought, well, why does John Stewart have to leave? Why can't there be two of them? And then that led me to think, why can't there be three of them? Because there had been Guy Gardner, who had been turned into a vegetable,
Right.
a mental vegetable. In a Green Lantern story, I could mean a real vegetable, but
It could have, as a matter of fact, there was, but yeah.
yeah, there was. Yeah, there was. So I was in the process of ending a storyline with the Predator that I had inherited, but also kind of going forward. How is Hal Jordan going to go? You know, what's John Stewart going to do? And the crisis was happening at the same time. So it just kind of led me to think, well, I could do my own crisis in a sense. You know, I could build this storyline that's concurrent with the actual crisis. And so that's how that played out. And it all came to fruition. I think 198 was when
198.
crisis ended, and then I had two more issues to get to 200. So then that was the culmination of my first arc, really, in that. But it led to the Green Lantern Corps, which then went on from there. So that was it. I was just trying to, you know, I try to be a good soldier when I go to these places, right? I mean, I come in and they tell me, here's what's going on at you know, in our company and our rest of the stuff. And so I try to play with that. I always really liked the continuity and the reality of the world that people were supposedly in. I do understand after 50, 60 years, continuity is impossible, but back in the day, it was possible, and I
Yes.
liked it.